Hey guys, it's Tawaj and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. Today I'm going to be predicting the 2026 World Cup in the USA. If you guys enjoy FIFA or FC videos or song rankings within FIFA, make sure to subscribe for more videos like that, or for more IRL football videos, or just talking about football in general. Alright, before getting started here guys, I'm sure most of you are wondering what qualifies me to even predict this World Cup. Since most of you don't know my background, I played football all throughout the youth academies, and in my last seasons I played in USL2 here in the US. I played with the Switchbacks USL2 team, and yeah, just did that for a few years. After that I worked a few years as a scout, scouting matches here in the US, US Open Cup, MLS, things like that. And outside of that, I'm actually an agent licensed by FIFA as well. So it's safe to say that football has been my life, and I'm sure I'm going to have some bad takes, but we'll see how many predictions I can get right and see if I can even pick the winner of this World Cup. So how this is going to work is I'm going to run through all the groups and predict them one by one, seeing who finishes first and last, and then eventually get to the bracket where I'll eventually choose my winner as well. I'll also have my picks for the awards that not only FIFA will be handing out at the end of the tournament, but I'll have some of my own personal predictions for other categories as well. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Alright, and starting off here, we got Group A. The teams are Mexico, South Africa, Korea Republic, and Czechia, Czech Republic. And I've got to be honest here, I don't think this is necessarily the strongest group. While there are some decent players in Mexico, Korea, and even Czechia, I don't think that any one team stands out too much, so maybe it'll end up being like a bloodbath where everyone's fighting for that top position. I know that Mexico has some decent players. Alexis Vega, who they've been hyping up for so long, hasn't really shown too much of his potential, but he's still a decent player for them. And a major talking point for them is Santiago Jimenez, who's been playing for Milan. I think the stat is that he hasn't had a single league goal this season. So not quite the season he's been hoping for, but potentially with his playing pedigree, he'll show up for the national team. Also worth noting that Guillermo Ochoa is going to his 6th World Cup. Bro's got the longevity of Ronaldo. And yeah, I know I got that North American bias, but honestly, I'm not entirely sure if Mexico will top this one. I'm sure Czech Republic will show up as a very solid unit. And of course, South Korea have a couple stars in their team as well, like Kim Min-jae and Son Heung-min. So, I think this one's just going to be a little bit difficult to predict who's going to come out on top here. I think for this group, I'm going to start out in the 4th position and probably put South Africa 4th. To be quite honest with you, I don't know too much about their squad, but I mean, I'm going to be putting South Africa in the 4th position. A little sad for me to say, especially with how iconic that 2010 World Cup was, but we'll leave them in 4th for now. Okay, now for the tricky part is deciding where these other 3 teams will go. Okay, this is going to be a bit of a hot take for me here, but I think I'm going to put South Korea taking the 3rd position. Although Son is getting a little bit of hate in MLS this season because his stats aren't really showing it goal-wise, he actually does have 9 assists in the league this season, so potentially not firing up front, but he still is going to have an impact for this South Korea squad. But ultimately, I'm just not sure if it's enough to get them past the other 2 teams. In 2nd position, although they're hosting it, I think I am going to put Mexico in the 2nd position. While they did win the Gold Cup most recently, I'm unsure if they'll be able to top this Czech Republic squad. And this Czech Republic squad did well in qualifying. And of course, the hardest path to qualify, which is in Europe. I think they gel well, especially looking at their qualifying path, where they were grouped with Croatia, ended up not finishing top of the group, but man, I remember some of those qualifying games and they were very intense. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of hoping Ireland would pull one out and be able to qualify for the World Cup, but unfortunately it went down to the line in penalties and Czech Republic pulled it out. And then who can forget that game versus Denmark? I mean, that was just absolute madness. So yes, this is how I'm gonna have my Group A. 1st place, we got Czech Republic. 2nd, Mexico. 3rd, South Korea. And 4th place, I've got South Africa. Alright, and moving on to Group B, we've got our next host, which is Canada in this group. And they are paired with Bosnia and Herzegovina, Qatar, and Switzerland. And once again, I think we've got a group where it's not going to be necessarily one of the groups you're looking forward to watching most, but I think it's really up in the air who's going to claim the top spots. I don't think any one team is way stronger than the other, but I think there is a team that I'm leaning more towards topping the group, and I think that team is Switzerland. I think for me, they've just got the strongest squad. They've got the likes of Kobo in goal, Akanji in defense, and even Granit Xhaka, who's, really stepped up this season for Sunderland. And I think overall we're, again, just another team in Europe that were solid in qualifying. For me, I think their roster just beats out the other ones by a bit. The next two spots are a little bit more difficult for me here. This Bosnia and Herzegovina team doesn't really necessarily seem the strongest. Canada is also just a decent squad. And surprisingly, you wouldn't know it, but they've actually got a few decent players in their team. We've got Alphonso Davies, who actually just picked up an injury, so it's going to be iffy from him, obviously being their top player. But they've got some overall good players like Tejan Buchanan and also Jonathan David, who have really stepped up and really proven their worth. Also some underrated boys in defense. They've got Moise Bombito, who missed most of the year in Ligue 1, so we'll see how the call-up works with that. And then also Ralph Priso with Vancouver has had a pretty decent season. But is that going to be enough to top them over Bosnia? Looking at this Bosnia team, they're not the greatest, but again, they were really good in qualifying and went through some tough games there. Dzeko, once again, their main man. They've got an exciting youngster in Esmir Bayrak. Came up in the U.S. through the New England Revs, and man, he's shown at some pretty good levels. But for me, I'm going to put the host Canada in the second position, while Bosnia takes the third. And I know I haven't mentioned much about Qatar, and honestly, I don't know too much about their squad, but I think fourth place is probably going to be the position for them. The only real experience I have watching them was during the 2021 Gold Cup, where they made a decent run and ended up losing out to the U.S. in that game in Austin. So I hate to say it, but they're going to be my fourth pick. And moving on from two groups that were quite up in the air as to who was going to top them, we've got Group C here, which is comprised of Brazil, Morocco, Haiti, and Scotland. Honestly, a pretty tough group, and potentially a group that's up there for the group of death. And with this one, I might have a pretty good hot take here, boys, because we've got a squad that everyone constantly picks as their dark horse. Okay, I think first thing first in this Group C, I think it's relatively obvious which team is probably going to finish in the fourth position. I'm going to put Haiti in that fourth position, and honestly, their squad isn't anything too special. Congratulations to them on qualifying for the World Cup for the first time in 52 years. An impressive feat for them, but I just don't think their squad is going to be strong enough to get out of the group. Their squad is comprised of a couple players who are even in the USL level, which is the second division in the US. Shout out to local player Duke LaCroix for the Switchbacks, repping Colorado, and I hope they do well, but unfortunately just going to put them in the last position for now. Okay, and at this point, this is where it gets very competitive in this group. I think Brazil are quite clearly the favorites in this one. I think it'll really just come down to that second position with Morocco and Scotland. The case here is Morocco is one of the strongest squads in Africa, if not the strongest. And who can forget their run in 2022 when they knocked out Spain and had just an overall impressive tournament. Hakim Ziyech was a very important part in that, though. Hasn't been called up for this squad, which, surprising shout, but I get he's back in Morocco playing in their first division, so not quite the levels he used to be, but I still think he might have been able to get the nod. And then you've got the likes of Brahim and Hakimi, who are just going to be mainstays in the squad and pushing them through the rounds in this World Cup. Then you got Scotland, who had quite the qualifying campaign and were really strong and had some really strong showings. Who could forget that insane goal by Scott McTominay? Head kick, put the whole nation on his back. Ever since leaving United, bro has become just an absolute legend. And my gosh, that style. Oh, that wavy hair. Anyways, I think with some of the players they've got, like Kieran Tierney, Andy Robertson, Scott McTominay, obviously, I think for me, they're just going to nudge out Morocco, and I know I'm probably going to get some hate in the comments for that, but for me, I'm going to put Scotland in the second position while Morocco finishes third. And with that, that means that Brazil is going to top this group. And I mean, I think this one is a little bit of an easier pick here, but Brazil is definitely one of the squads that I'm going to be rooting for this World Cup. I mean, you got the storyline of Neymar's last World Cup. Who's not going to root for that? You know he's just going to turn it on, and if he doesn't get injured, he's going to be one of the best players at this tournament for sure. Okay, now we've got Group D, where we've got my home nation in it. And before I get started out in this group, guys, I must say, sorry about us US fans. I get how insufferable we can be. That being said, I'm just going to put them in first place. Just kidding, it's not going to be that easy. This group's got Paraguay, Turkey, Australia, and the USA. Also, just want to get this out of the way. One thing that really annoys me is when people just call them the USMNT when we're talking about national teams. Like, we've got all these countries and names, and then we just go USMNT. Like, bro, it's just USA or US. And they've got some strong players like Kubas from the Whitecaps, Almiron, who hasn't necessarily had the best season, but he's been a mainstay for them. Unfortunately, I just think that it's going to be a very competitive group. It's hard for me to put them there, but I'm going to put Paraguay in last place. And from there, I really do think maybe it is a little bit of my own country bias, but I think the group's going to come down to the US and Turkey. So that means Australia is going to be in the third position. Decent players like Matty Ryan is obviously a legendary keeper for them, and the likes of Jackson Irvine, who's been their captain in previous tournaments and has been a decent player in midfield for them. All right, and this is where it comes down to it, because I don't think it'd be too crazy for me to put my own nation in the first position, just with how disappointing Turkey have been in previous tournaments. But that being said, Turkey do have a stronger group, I believe, this time around compared to the 2022 World Cup. I think despite him being young, from what I've seen at Real Madrid, Arda Güler is definitely going to be their main talisman. I think it's undeniable how good their squad is, and you know, the matchup between the US versus Turkey is likely gonna be the one that, you know, may decide things. And I mean, they've got some real star players out there. They've got the likes of Bayındır, the goalkeeper from Man United, Çalhanoğlu from Inter Milan. I mean, he's been real consistent for the national team in Turkey. And who can forget Kenan Yıldız, who's likely going to be their main attacking option up front. I mean, obviously we've got Christian Pulisic, who's coming off kind of a little bit of a rut in the back half of the season. Gio Reyna also has not really seen too much game time. And I mean, I guess the big story with the US is Diego Luna, but honestly, I can't really blame Poch too much with that decision. I've heard a lot of our fan base really hating on that decision, but honestly, I'm not too sure if he even was the best in that position. While he has done some good things with RSL this season and on the back half of last season, I am not sure if he's quite got the hype that everyone makes him out to seem. But I think for me, this is going to be a tough one, but I'm going to put Turkey above the US for this edition. And I know it's going to be crazy because we are hosting the World Cup, so maybe that gives us a little bit of an advantage, but whoa, it's going to come down to the line. Okay, now we've got Group E. I think this is a group that will pretty much pick itself, in my opinion. Starting off at the top of the group, I'm going to go with the heavy favorites for this group, and it's going to be Germany. They've just got by far the strongest squad in this group, with the likes of Joshua Kimmich, Lennart Karl, Sane, Musiala, Goretzka, Rudiger, Jonathan Tah. Their squad is just by far the strongest. And you even got Neuer coming back once again. Man, I just feel so bad for Ter Stegen. I know he probably wasn't going to get called up, but man, you just got to feel bad for him. Then obviously we got our boy Marco Reus. I think you should have made the squad personally. And then moving swiftly on, I think it's going to come down to the Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast versus Ecuador here. But I think I'm going to put Ecuador over the Ivory Coast. But for me, I think Ecuador have just been good in South American qualifying this time around. We've got a solid core of players and a really strong back line with Hincapié, and then obviously our boy William Pacho Fun fact, my bro actually used to play with him back in the Antwerp days. So definitely one of the squads I'll be rooting for in this World Cup. And then the Ivory Coast, again, they could get the second seed. They've got decent players in Nicolas Pepe and Kessie, and also Diomande, who's been very exciting for RB Leipzig. He is one of those stories who was really crazy. He was actually playing in non-professional amateur football in the US here and is now absolutely killing it for RB Leipzig. So that will be quite the story there. But I think they'll get third place, and then last place, Curacao, unfortunately, is just going to have to take that last slot. Ooh, okay, next we got the Group F. This one is made up of Tunisia, Sweden, Japan, and the Netherlands. I think this will be a very exciting group and potentially group of death. Although I will say Japan really lost out in one of their star players. Mitoma got injured right before the World Cup. Absolutely gutted for him, and honestly, that is a huge knock for the Japan side. But I think Japan will just overall be a strong unit, as they always are. They still got the likes of Kubo and Kamada creating chances for them, who has been a big part of that Celtic squad who crushed the dreams of every football fan when they stopped the Hearts on the last day. Once again, Celtic winning the league title and the Hearts, heartbreak for them. Netherlands, but for me, I think this Netherlands squad is going to be too strong for Japan and others in this group. I mean, they've consistently played well at these major tournaments. They've got Frankie de Jong, Nathan Ake, Virgil van Dijk, and they've got Malin, Gakpo, and Memphis Depay, who's consistently good for them. And they've also got Wout Weghorst, our boy Wouty Wags, that iconic trick free kick goal versus Argentina, keeping them alive. So yeah, we'll put Netherlands in that first slot, Japan second, and that means Sweden in third position. Sweden, they did well in qualifying. They weren't expected to even make it to the World Cup, but they were able to pull through for some of their bigger players that they have. They've got the likes of Svensson from Dortmund, who I'm really excited to watch play, Lucas Bergvall, Gyökeres, and Isak. So they've got some solid pieces in there and some up-and-coming exciting players. So potentially one of the third seed teams that go through to the groups, who goes through to the knockout rounds. And in last place, I think for me, it's a little bit more obvious. I'm going to put Tunisia here. Another squad that I'm not too familiar with, and unfortunately, I'm just going to put them in the last seed. Okay, and then moving to Group G, I haven't really picked too many upsets, but let's see if I pick one here. In this group, we've got Belgium, Egypt, Iran, and then New Zealand. And in this group, unfortunately, I think it's just going to be a situation where, and then for me, I think it's going to be a situation where, unfortunately, the group as a whole is probably going to be put off their game with everything that's been going on a little bit. But I'm just going to put Iran in last place. And, I mean, they could really compete with New Zealand for that third position, but I'm going to put New Zealand above them. The All Whites, I really don't know too much about their squad, but they've got some players scattered across England, Australia, New Zealand is kind of the heart of their team. Group H, you've got Cape Verde, Spain, Saudi Arabia, and Uruguay. I think the main thing here is the Spain squad. I think they're really strong and potentially one of the favorites to win the tournament. But that being said, I still think Spain is one of the favorites to win the tournament and will top this group. Second place, I've got Uruguay, who will have a strong squad and did well in qualifying in South America. They've still got Fede Valverde and Araujo, who they can really lean on. And in third place, I will put Saudi Arabia. I just think that overall they'll be a stronger, more consistent squad than Cape Verde. Okay, coming up on Group I, we've got France, Senegal, Iraq, and Norway. I think France, being the heavy favorites to potentially win this World Cup, will put them in first place for me. Next, I really think this second place position is what it's going to come down to in this group. We've got a very strong Senegal squad and a very strong Norway squad as well. And then looking over at Norway, they've got probably the best squad they've ever had. So for this group, I'll have France in first position, Norway second, Senegal third, and Iraq getting last place. And in Group J, we've got all the A teams. So we've got Argentina, Algeria, Australia, and Jordan. Big storyline here is Argentina defending their World Cup title. In my opinion, I think Argentina, being the squad they are, definitely aren't going to get in the first place position. This is going to be tough because I do like the Algeria group as well. Riyad Mahrez has obviously been their talisman for quite a while. So for me, this is another tough one, but I'm going to put Austria second, Algeria third, and then Jordan taking up that fourth position. Moving on to Group K, we've got Portugal, Democratic Republic of Congo, Uzbekistan, and Colombia. This group, I've got Portugal. I think it's pretty self, but I'm going to put Colombia in second place. So I'll put Congo in the third position, Uzbekistan. Okay, and rounding off the group stages, we got our final group, which is comprised of England, Croatia, Ghana, and Panama. And I still am going to play it safe and put England top of this group. So for me, I'm going to be putting Ghana in the second position while putting Croatia in the third position. And just hear me out on this, guys. So yeah, that is going to be my main upset in the group stages. Okay, moving on here, we're going to have to choose some of the third place teams. So that means my teams that make it out of the group in the third position and go to the knockout rounds are South Korea, Morocco, Australia, Ivory Coast, Sweden, Senegal, Algeria, and Croatia. So with the group stages all complete now, let's see how the knockout rounds look and make our predictions from there. Okay, surprisingly here first, we have our first matchup between two of the hosts, and that is Mexico versus Canada. But for me at the moment, I think I'll just take Mexico to take the nod over Canada. Okay, next matchup we have Germany versus, I think I am gonna have Germany get the nod, and I think this will finally be the fall off for this Croatia team. But I think my dark horse is going to be Norway. I think they've just got some really special pieces that could make something happen this tournament. Moving on, we've got this next matchup between the Netherlands and Scotland. I think this could potentially be a good game, but unfortunately for me, I think the Netherlands are just going to outclass Scotland and make it through the next round. Got Brazil versus Japan, and man, this will be quite the matchup. Put Brazil through, and I think they're just going to rally behind Neymar and end up. Matchup, we've got France versus Senegal. Senegal, I did have a nod as dark horse potentially, but I think the France group is just way too good for them. Okay, this next matchup, maybe not the best matchup, but we got the Czech Republic versus South Korea. From there, we've got England versus the Ivory Coast. Next matchup, I've got Turkey versus Sweden, and this could be a very exciting matchup here. Sweden, I don't think will dominate this match if it ends up happening. Next up, we've got Belgium versus Morocco. And look, guys, I put Morocco in the third position, and Belgium ended up topping the group for me. And wow. With this next matchup, we've got Spain versus Belgium. And with this one, I'm going to be taking Spain. Honestly, I'm not sure if Belgium will make it this step. We've got Switzerland versus Australia. And as we saw in the 2022 World Cup, Australia were really able to hold their own in that tournament, but I think I'm going to have to give this one to Switzerland. Next up, we've got a battle of the Cotton Bowl in South America between Argentina and Uruguay. This one will be a tough battle, but give me Argentina. Next up, we've got Portugal versus Colombia, and honestly, despite having a few good players in James Rodriguez and Luis Diaz, I think the Portugal team just is going to be all seriousness though, guys. I'm definitely going to be putting Argentina through on this one. Okay, in these quarterfinals, we've got Germany versus Netherlands, Spain versus Belgium, Brazil versus England, and Portugal versus Argentina. So I'm going to put Germany through the semis. With this next matchup, we've got Spain versus Belgium. And with this one, I'm going to be taking... Okay, now this next matchup, we've got an insane game. We've got Brazil. Everyone's rallying behind Neymar. And then this England team. That being said, I am going to put England through. That is a tough decision. Okay, and if this happens, Portugal versus Argentina in the quarterfinal matchup. My gosh, what an insane game this would be. But I'll always say this, as long as Messi's on the pitch, the team is just going to dominate whoever has him. So I'm sorry, Ronaldo. For me, I think Messi's just going to be too good. and I'm going to put Argentina through to the semifinals. Okay, and coming down to the wire now, we've got Germany versus Spain and England versus Argentina. I think by this point, Lamine Yamal is going to be coming back, and I think with how they dominate the game, play possession, and ultimately have a strong attack, I think Spain will ultimately win this one over Germany. Lastly, we've got England versus Argentina. And this one is a crazy match, but again, I think with Messi in the squad, I think Argentina is going to go back to the finals once again. Okay, and so that means starting off, I'll just say the third place match. We've got Germany versus England. I think I'm going to be putting England as the third. I think I'm going to be choosing England as taking home the third place position. And then the final matchup, although I would love to see Messi going back to back with the World Cup, I think the Spain squad is going to be too strong and probably even get the better of Argentina in this matchup. So my choice. Okay, and with those being my predictions, let's go to the awards. For me, if Spain end up winning the World Cup, I think the player of the tournament is going to be a tough one. I'm going to go out on a whim and say Pedri is the player of the tournament at the 2026 World Cup. Oftentimes the goalkeeper of the tournament ends up going to the winning team, but I think I'll go crazy and I'll actually give the goalkeeper of the tournament to Manuel Neuer. And I think for a young player of the tournament, if Spain ends up winning, I think there's only one solution, and that'll be Lamine Yamal. Next up, we've got the Golden Boot Award, and I think if England goes far, then Harry Kane will be my pick as the Golden Boot. But overall, I'm going to give the most underwhelming player of the tournament to Luka Modric, and I know that's going to be a very hot take. Lastly, we've got the breakout star of the tournament. I think if Norway end up playing well, they'll have their main core of players, obviously Odegaard, Holland, Sorloth. But for me, I think Andreas Schelderup of Benfica will be their underrated player, not only of Norway, but of the entire tournament. All right, guys, that's all my predictions for the FIFA World Cup in the USA 2026. Let me know if you disagree with anything I've said. I know I've had some picks that were completely out there and maybe some hot takes, so I would love to know your opinions in the comments down below. Make sure you guys subscribe for more FC videos, IRL football videos, and I'll catch you guys